I'm over here. My second most anticipated piece of 2020 is here, and this is going to be the strangest review you've ever seen, because this is quite possibly, actually it is, the most ambitious statue I've ever seen in my life. So I have one question for you before we dive in.
Do you want to build a snowman? Come on, let's go and play.
Mr. X with the Extreme channel here with probably the most extreme collectible I have ever purchased. This is custom 1/4 scale Iceman vs. Sentinel diorama. And it's not the biggest statue. It may be the biggest statue. It's certainly the widest statue I have. And I am just blown away for so many different reasons. This is clearly the most ambitious statue I've ever seen in my life. Some of it, the design is unbelievable. It works. Some of it, I'm very, very scared. So this is not going to be a typical review. What I mean by that is you're going to see, here's some stuff you normally don't see. Some of the close-ups, I'm not going to move this much. I'm very scared to death to move it because some of the stuff might break, and that's the last thing I want. So when we do close-ups, I'll be walking around it with video. It's just going to be different. Get over it. But I just measured where he was supposed to go. And the measurements are, he's slightly bigger than he originally was, and I am 1/8 of an inch too short. And it's a ceiling, so I can't raise it up. So that is really discouraging right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably could get him in there, but realistically, it's really bothering me, as you can tell. You know what? I think I measured from the turntable. There's a turntable underneath this, believe it or not. So let's just do the measurements for you guys. So he is 30, you know what? He will fit, hopefully. We'll talk about the design in a second. He's 31, 32 inches tall. The way he sits now, he's probably about 32 inches wide. And deep, it's probably very similar. It's pretty similar as well. But there's so many different angles because there's really not a front to this statue. So, as I said, first of all, this is custom. It's long sold out. However, you may be able to pick some up from secondhand sellers because shipping on this bitch to the United States was over $900, as you can imagine. It came in crazy big packages. Let's look at it. So normally we show this during the design, but here's the giant boxes. Both had a tiny bit of an art box on top. And both had 2 layers. And I didn't quite count the number of pieces, but I'm guessing it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20. Some very large, some very small. And when we talk about the design, we're going to talk about how everything went together. But just crazy, crazy nuts here. And there were a few broken pieces, which we'll just talk about now. Here's a picture of them. Here's 4 ice shards. Now, the commissioner warned us some of the stuff is going to break in shipping. It's a fact. He allowed everybody the chance to get out. I don't know where those ice shards came from. I can't find them. Because on the statue, I kid you not, there are at least, I'm pretty good at estimating things, like you ever count jelly beans in a jar. There's at least 400 to 500 ice shards sticking out, big and small, easily. So I don't know where those are at, not really a big deal. But I purchased him to continue to go with my Xmen vs. Sentinel line. This is from some of my favorite pieces. I also have the custom Psylocke. You guys have seen that. And then the custom Magneto. They're all part of this line versus the Sentinel. And I'm really exhausted right now because this has been a custom crazy week. If you guys recall, on Monday we had a custom Superman review. The next day was a custom Sinister on Throne. The next day I actually unboxed and got this piece in, but the shipping gods destroyed it. So I didn't do a review, and the commissioner's taking care of me. We're going to get a new piece. Today is not only this guy right here, but their Cyclops also arrived. Here's a picture of that. So I'm going to launch him in the next 12 hours. It's actually going to be 2 reviews in one day, so I'm going to rest on Sunday. And then also coming tomorrow is this custom Namer. Not Namor, Namer. And this custom Magneto, I have sitting in my garage I need to unbox. In a few days from now, 3 days from now, this custom Sabretooth arrives. And this custom Wolverine vs. Ninjas piece arrives. And I tell you all that because I want you to keep watching the channel. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe now and you're going to see all those pieces up close. But hopefully most of those will be the traditional format of the review. Cost on this guy was 1,300 euros, which depending on the exchange rate is 16 to 1,800 US dollars. But as I said with the shipping, just outrageous. I believe they made 65 of them. I'm not going to turn this upside down and look. It wasn't on the box. I know the Cyclops, they made 65, and I think they did that on the Psylocke, so I think they're keeping them all the same. And this piece, it's almost without words. But we're still going to use the traditional stuff to review them. We're still going to talk about concept, design, paint, sculpt. And with Iceman, it's always interesting because paint, well, it's clear resin. Sculpt, some of the details really hard to see. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. But we'll start with concept as we always do. This is Iceman fighting a Sentinel, and it is 1/4 scale, 4 times smaller than it'd be in real life. And this group makes the Sentinel pieces huge, which I think is more accurate to the scale. So I think the scale is right. But Iceman, each piece in this group, the character, the X-Man or X-Woman, is showing their powers, destroying this piece of the Sentinel. And this is no exception. He's completely frozen the Sentinel other than some of the fingers. And ice shards are splitting out and they're breaking it in half. And not only that, but he's built a, kind of a Frozone ice ramp. And he's shooting more ice onto it. And this is Ice Ice Baby. I mean, this is just intense as hell. It is super ambitious. The design alone in the engineering, it's scaring me to death. I'm scared to death. Any minute it's going to fall apart. Just because I've never seen a statue this elaborate. And that, like I said, that's more about design. But the design is awesome. It is showing Iceman, pure Iceman. I love the transparent, clear Iceman. And there's a small hint of color to him we'll talk about. And ice is everywhere. That's what makes him so powerful. And there's different colors in the ice depending on what you're looking at, which we'll talk about in paint and sculpt. So I think that helps accomplish it. This concept is an X, guys. It's 10 out of 10, or 5 out of 5, I guess I should say. The most ambitious concept I've ever seen. And it's also the most ambitious design I've ever seen, which does not mean that it is good. I give them an X for sure right away on the attempt at the design. However, here's a few notes of some close-ups of mainly concerns that I have. So here's how it was assembled. You have the base, which is the Sentinel Hand. And then you have that secondary large ice piece right here, that shard piece, kind of Christopher Reeve Superman base. And then you have a number of ice shards that you insert like right down here. Now these didn't have magnets, and as you see, they're at a down angle. So therefore, I glued some of them in. The finger almost literally sets on top of this. So this finger is permanently installed, but then the top of it sets on top of this ice shard. These two fingers you inserted. This finger was permanently inserted on the bottom. Then you inserted the large ice shard. And then you put two pieces that barely hold together. So I'm really afraid to move it. The large ice bridge is right here. And as you can see, there is some yellowing already, which tends to happen with all Iceman pieces. His thumb inserts right there. Iceman himself is one piece. However, his arms are supposed to connect via magnets. You can actually see the magnets in there. And they made smaller magnets. And unfortunately, my left arm would not stay by itself. So I actually had to glue it in. And I'm still a little nervous. And then this piece right here inserts into this piece via large key. And the light up feature is directly beneath it, but you have to disassemble all of it to turn it on, so you guys don't get to see it. A few more things with the design, specifically with the ice bridge. First, You see a little bit of the yellowing that's starting to happen. We'll talk about that with the paint and sculpt. The bottom of the ice bridge is sick, but you have to hold that to install it. I was praying no pieces would break off, and they didn't, thankfully. The top, they have this snow effect because you can see the bar underneath it. It was to help cover that bar that's holding everything together. We had the option of going without the snow effect, but you'd see the bar, so that's clearly the best way to go. Iceman, as we talked about, here's a little bit closer look at the seam lines, but his keys would not go in. I actually had to use a hairdryer. The holes were farther apart than his feet were. Crazy, crazy ambitious stuff here. Now, another thing I thought of, when I go assemble it, I'm going to have to put him back. I might keep Iceman in his, on the ramp or whatever you call this, because I don't have enough room to lift him up and insert the pegs, but that's even more dangerous. I'm scared to death to go do this, guys, to be honest with you. I really am. But I got to do it tonight because I got to film Cyclops for you guys. Never working for you because I get no enjoyment on these amazingly awesome pieces. So design, I think there's a lot of opportunity, but here's the thing. I don't know a way to do it differently other than some stronger magnets. But again, you would see them. If the glue holds, I'm fine with that. You know, the packaging, the eye shards. For one of the first times ever, I'm actually going to throw away this box because I'm never going to sell this piece. It is one of my favorites already, I can tell you that. But I couldn't ship it anywhere. I'd be too afraid. I'd be too afraid to take this in my car. Yeah, once you unpack this, I think, and if someone out there already unpacked it and is trying to resell it to you, I'm sure theirs is fine. Go for it. But I would never do it. It's just too risky. Like I said, I don't even know where I'm going to put some of it. Oh, shit, that's not going to work either. I was thinking when so I'm going to have to disassemble it to move it. I'm going to take off the ice ramp, but I guess I could take him off, then take that off. Oh, I wonder if this is what strippers think. I'll take this off first, then this. Got a plan. But, yeah, so design, I can't give it a higher score just because the ambition. I think the design has a lot of concerns, a lot of issues, but it accomplishes things that people have never done before. So with all the pros and all the cons, I think the design's a very nice. Now, if I ever come back and it's worked perfectly and nothing has ever happened, then the design probably deserves to be upgraded. One other thing, I don't know if I talked about this in the video I made or not, so there's a light up feature underneath everything. However, you have to disassemble it to turn on the light up feature. So while I think it's cool and I saw some pictures where it looked great, not going to use it unless you get one with a remote where the one that came with is a push button. So I should probably take the batteries out of it. You know what? Here's actually a picture of what it looks like after I've taken it apart. Now we're going to dive into the paint and sculpt, and this is incredibly difficult because there's not really a lot going on with the paint. The sculpt, clearly there is. And just like with the design, I'm going to do some close-ups and kind of describe what I'm seeing. One of the things I forgot in the video is some of the ice shards that are coming out, some of the ones I showed you in the design that I had to glue in. There's cracks all around the Sentinel Hand. I forgot to say that, so when you see those. But tune in right here. So there's really 3 or 4 different parts to this base. The first part is the bottom, which is traditionally a rock, where here it is ice shards all over. And this is cool. Translucent resin, almost like when you try and freeze the Sentinel, the ice builds up around it. And these have a purple and blue tint to them, depending on which direction you're looking at. Then the second part of the base is the actual Sentinel Hand. And you got some interesting things going on here. So first, it's more of a purple color, as you see, and it is semi-transparent, but you still see some of the mechanisms and gears. And ironically, when you remove this piece, you see the palm, kind of the Iron Man blaster beneath it. So if you did not want to display all of these ice shards and Iceman shooting, you very well could. I have some, I think it's already the deterioration happening right here, which typically happens with Iceman pieces. There's some up on the bridge as well we'll talk about. Now the next part of the base is the actual Sentinel fingers that have not froze. And these are very similar to the other pieces I've reviewed. The Psylocke, the Magneto, and I suspect it'll be just like the Cyclops. They look fantastic. Great paint job. I love how the ice shards, which is the next part we're going to talk about, have split them in half. Very, very cool. Very clean. All torn up. Purple blue paint. See some of the gold and wiring and mechanisms in there. And that brings us to these top ice shards that Iceman has created. These look great. A little bit more dense or less dense, whatever, but you can't see through them as well. And they have a moist effect in certain places, which very well may be the glue that they built together, just like the shards that we had to insert that we talked about during the design. And I like that they're a different color than the ice of the Sentinel piece to really show that they're not the Sentinel piece. They're a little bit different. Then let's look at his blast. This is even a different, it's kind of a mix between the two. It's semi-transparent, but semi-not. So I like the fact that there's so much different ice. A lot of people were concerned because they thought the Sentinel Hand was originally going to be blue and now it's iced over. I actually like that. And I like the fact it's three different, I don't want to say ice colors, but as you move up the tiers, it's a little bit different each time. And I'm sure lighting can play a huge part in this. Let's look at the ice bridge. Now, a couple things going on here. On the bottom of this, which made it incredibly difficult to install, are all of these. And you actually have to hold it by this to install it. But look how great they look. They look fantastic. A different level of ice. This looks like real ice. Look at that. And even, look at over here, you know, some detail that you don't see. I've never been able to move a statue around this much. On the top of it, you have a couple things going on. You have that snow effect we talked about that they put in to kind of cover up that rod. And you see some yellowing already happening, which is unfortunate, but I think it happens with all Iceman pieces that are truly made like this. And the snow effect looks okay. I've seen better. And Iceman himself, oh, this is going to be hard to talk about, but the sculpt is fantastic. Great muscle, great anatomy, typical Franco face. I love his rage. Oh, sorry about that with my finger. I love his rage. The color is a little bit of purple in there, similar to the Sentinel Hand, but different. You can see his clothing on there. Great anatomy on his body. Very, very cool. I also wanted to include some stills and afterthoughts on this, but the shards, the ice is just amazing. It looks fantastic, and as I said, it's so elaborate, the time he must have spent on it. And really quick, here's a close-up of where I said the ice is breaking, the shards are breaking through the Sentinel Hand. Very, very, very cool right here. And, you know, another part that I didn't get highlights in the video is where the shards are breaking through the Sentinel fingers. This looks amazing. It really adds it to the next level. Some more of the ice bridge. One thing I didn't talk about is his hands actually don't touch the blast. And I don't know if I like that or not, but from an engineering standpoint, it makes sense. And then here's just some more shots of Iceman himself to give you guys a little bit close-up of the awesome sculpt on him. Pretty badass. So regarding the paint, they didn't really have a lot to go on, but I like how they got a different color of paint within the ice. Like I told you, it's kind of this tri-level color. Iceman's a little bit different color than the Sentinel base, which is different than the shards on top. So that's a huge plus. There's already some yellowing though, so I don't think it can be perfect paint, even though that's not really the paint. The Sentinel fingers look fantastic. They do in all the pieces. They look very similar. So that doesn't have the wow factor, even though it probably is for me. But I think the paint is a solid W. It's a 4 out of 5. W is rail if you're new to the channel. W-R-A-I-L. Not a grail, but something people really want. Sculpt. I wonder how long it took Franco to these ice shards. And his mind is nuts anyway. So see all those weird creatures he does, and I like him. I want the baby snatcher, the one that's eating babies. I know you just watched that, Franco. I hope you did. But the sculpt on it's phenomenal. I mean, the Sentinel Hand, he probably used a template because he's done it so many times. The anatomy on Iceman is fantastic. And these shards on the back of this bridge coming out, I think are awesome. I think it's a perfect sculpt. X for Iceman on the sculpt. So, once again, I'm dick riding. Does this statue have the X factor? I think for the fact that it is the most ambitious project I've ever seen, and it works as long as I don't move it. And it could work if I move it. But definitely some issues putting it together. You saw that. Definitely some shipping issues, which we were forewarned 20 different times. So that's not a big deal. You see a few of the magnets. As I said, a lot of these design issues I'm talking about, I don't know how to fix them. The only way to fix them is not do a statue this ambitious. But you know what? We want a statue this ambitious. Proof to be shown that not only is it sold out, but right now you'll be lucky to get one under $3,000 probably. And that's not me hyping this piece because I will never sell this because I think it'll break in shipping. But now you may or may not see a picture of where he's at. You know what? I'm going to save that. If I can get him where he's supposed to go on my Xmen wall, you'll see that with the Cyclops review that will drop in 12 hours or so. But did I give this a final grade? That's how tired I am. It's an X. This is one of the best statues I've ever seen. If it breaks, it's going to be downgraded. And not from me doing something stupid. I'm being super careful with this one because I break shit. But I'm sorry for swearing so much on this one, guys. I'm really trying to do better. But, yeah. Oh, one other thing I totally forgot. The snow effect comes off like it does on every single statue. Every single Iceman, Mr. Freeze, Wolverine statue that I have snow on, Sabretooth, the snow comes off. But, yeah, so tune in the next 12 hours. You will see the Cyclops from this line. And I'm a lot more excited he's going to be more stable. Not that this isn't stable. I'm just scared it's not. So I'll let you know. You got to tune in for the Cyclops to see if I broke this when I was moving it. You know you want to. But check out the Magneto and Psylocke review here at the end. And thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you very soon. Take care.